Hey everybody, welcome to Sandstone Care's podcast series. I'm here with Rob Devereux from Ashley Addictions Treatment. Rob,
How are you?
good.
Nice
Say
to
hello
meet
to
you.
our wonderful audience.
Nice to meet everybody.
Yeah, so Rob, thanks for coming out. We are really happy to continue our podcast series with really great people and really talk to our community, our providers, our partners, and get people in front of our audience to make sure that they can hear really relevant information to our industry, things like that. I know we talked, you're really excited to talk on some things. So, tell me a little bit first and tell our folks a little bit about what got you into this field, what your background is, and how you came to be here today.
Sure. Thanks for having me. So what got me here was a little over 11 years ago, trying to drive my car off a bridge after active addiction for the previous 8 years, I would say. Brought me to the point of not wanting to be here anymore. So turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. And ended up in this field, passion for helping other people. That's sort of the why, right?
Mm-hmm.
I realized that myself and others were, qualified to help other people who were in the same position that we were in, right? Really, I don't take that responsibility lightly. So
Totally. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that.
Yep.
And you work for Ashley Addictions Treatment, which
I do, yeah.
many people might know, but for those who don't know, maybe tell us a little bit about what that is.
Sure. Ashley Addiction Treatment, it's formerly Father Martin's Ashley, which a lot of folks know us as. It's a nonprofit treatment center located in Maryland. Haverty Grace, we have all levels of care. And was started 35 years ago by a Catholic priest, Father Martin, and his business partner, May Abraham, her last name being Ashley. Long and short of it is they saw a need to help a lot of folks and started a facility, like I said, 35 years ago, and it's grown. It was just one home then, small amount of people they were able to help, and now we have over 100 beds inpatient and 2 outpatient locations. As well as the PHP extended care. So
Nice.
Yep.
Very good. I think Ashley's a recognized name and authority in our industry, and a lot of people are familiar with the Father Martin's Chalk Talk.
Yes.
And I know personally that was something that I've watched many times, and is one of the most excellent, for so long ago too, one of the most excellent ways of breaking down the disease, right? And
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
really kind of a front runner and getting that information, that education out there.
Sure. And Ashley as a whole believes in treating folks with dignity, respect. We believe in innovation. We also believe in long-term recovery, lifelong recovery, which is imperative. So at the core, that is who we are and what we believe in.
Yes, absolutely. And so you came here today and you wanted to talk about a few different things, and I know you're really passionate about collaboration.
Yes.
And so, we want to talk about collaboration today and how important that is. And I think it's utterly important today because we have so many people dying, right, from substance use disorders. And that's not just a theory, right? It's a statistic. It's the leading cause of death for Americans. And so, tell us a little bit about what is it about collaboration that's so important, from your perspective.
Sure. Well, thanks for bringing me on here to talk about it first and foremost. And the statistics are scary and staggering. When framed in such a way, it's like a 9/11 happening every few weeks in this country. Which is scary to think about. So collaboration, example A, Sandstone and Ashley, on a larger scale, I truly believe that in order to make a dent in what's happening in our country, and not just in Maryland or Colorado or, in our country as a whole, that we really, truly all have to work together. Too many people are dying in this country, and that means setting aside egos, what we think we thought previously, what the way things have been done before. I truly believe that everyone has to come together.
Totally. And I mean, when we think about that, I think we've seen that happen in communities where we'll have, a coalition that forms.
Yep.
And largely, those can be effective to change stigma, action in a community, but at a larger level, we're missing those pieces.
Yeah.
And so, who do you see that as?
Well, I mean, that's the thing you mentioned, and I'm really glad you brought it up. Sort of happening in communities, right? And there are a lot of people doing really good things in the treatment industry, in mental health and all of it, right? A lot of people are working in silos. There's even in Maryland, for instance, there county to county things are very different, and then you go to state, and things are very different. And across the country, obviously that problem is going to be amplified. So, yes, on a small local level, counties are coming together, things of that nature. I would love to see it on a larger scale. And what I mean is, if I could set up a dream meeting, a call to action, if you will. I'm looking way bigger than that, right? I want, SAMHSA, facing addiction, the government, private, and public sector, the National Council for Behavioral Health. For-profit, nonprofit treatment centers, insurance companies. I know you need our help. You're just afraid to share it. It's okay. I used to work in the insurance industry. I understand. At the end of the day, they don't want people constantly going in and out of treatment too. So the MAT community versus the non-MAT community. Unfortunately, there's a stigmas that's within our own field, right? Harm reduction, the medical community, NIH, the judicial, law enforcement, 12-step, non-12-step programs, all of them. Let's say we could actually sit down in a room together and start to come up with some strategies around education, standards, regulation, and also obviously, data collection, you name it, right? Truly working together would be, for me, a first step into what we're dealing with here on a very very large scale. So that would be a dream meeting for me, to get all those folks, at least somebody from each agency, sitting in the same room together, and really truly working together. And the idea of competition and that type of stuff, it has to go away. Our organization does the same thing as you. Guess what? You can still work together. So breaking down those walls and old ways of thinking, to me, is where I would love to see the collaboration truly go.
Totally, yeah. Did a really good job of breaking all those pieces down. I think there's so much benefit, and it was interesting you mentioned education first, right? Because I think there's so much stigma, there's so much misinformation, there's so much data from 50, 60 years ago that people are still citing that's completely off base, in what we know today. And I know we were talking a little bit before about some of these new calls to action and that are not even citing education.
Yep.
And what's the importance of education? I mean, why educate?
It's imperative. I was talking to Drew right before we started this about, I read a New York Times article that mentioned if they had $100 billion or something, they got a sociologist, a law enforcement, a few people together, and very little of the problem did they talk about educating. The trickle up effect that can happen from education could change the future about what drugs are, what they aren't, things of that nature. Some people don't realize that a Percocet is just a very mild version of heroin, right?
Sure.
folks don't know that. That's not their fault. So educating, law enforcement, educating the medical community, all of it, could change the future. Oftentimes you hear trickle down, but you don't hear the trickle up that can happen from education. So if we start younger, we can break down stigma. There is the not my backyard type stuff that's happening. That's not my child. That'll never happen, right? That'll never happen to my kid. I'm here to say that I had a 3.75 GPA in high school, played 3 sports, was on student council. I've done heroin. I've done it all. You would never suspect somebody like myself, to end up going down the path that I did, but it happened, and it's happening all over the place. So this isn't new, right? People have been dying from addiction for a long time. Right now, we have a spotlight on us, so I'm trying to captivate and seize the moment.
Yeah.
So.
Totally. I appreciate that. It isn't new, right?
Nope.
We've been dealing with substance use of any kind, whether it's alcohol or drugs, and that changes and what it looks like, and the trends are always different. But we've been dealing with this for probably as long as man crushed grapes, right?
Yep.
And so, I think we do have a spotlight. We need to take advantage of that because it may not be forever. And although that spotlight comes with a laser focus in one area, we need to continue to talk about addiction. Substance use is not limited to people making bad choices around opiates. It's not limited to pharmaceutical companies overprescribing pain medication, right? It's all encapsulating. What we're talking about here is brain dysregulation, overvaluation of a particular substance for a variety of reasons, genetic, all these types of things that we know today.
Yep.
And that information going into the lowest level of schools and helping children and families understand that information in a scientific way. This isn't, your kid may make a poor choice. He'll make a lot of poor choices. That's what kids do.
Yep.
Hopefully one of them's not substances, but they will come in contact with a mood-altering chemical at some point in their lives. Mm-hmm. And if that happens and they have these dispositions, different aspects that would make them overvalue a substance, well, then now we're in a different boat.
Sure.
Right? Now we're treating a medical condition. And so I think that's so important. I think a lot of what you said, bringing these different people together from different opposing viewpoints, even within our own quote unquote industry, right?
Yep.
People are segmented in how they view and treat substance use disorders, and so if we can coming together on a large level and having those tough but meaningful conversations, I think we could start chipping away. And that's what I think again, in a microcosm, we can start doing today, bringing people together, bringing the providers together. And I so appreciate you being here to start some of that, starting that conversation here at least.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I mean, we have a meeting right after this where we're meeting with several other treatment providers to collaborate, right? It's something I say in every public forum I possibly can, that we need to work together. If we are all in this for the reasons that we say we are, we have to. Anything that, I'm a connector of people, right, is what I say all the time. And so I try to connect folks with the proper resources and, lots of really good things happening, as mentioned, right? But a lot of them are, working in silos or, their own wheels, and just, if we could all interconnect and really start working together, I think we can make a dent on what's going on in this country. So,
absolutely. Well, Rob, thank you so much for this.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks everybody for viewing, and please, tune in next time. And thank you again.